Y News. Government to import 200,000 metric tons of sugar amid increasing demand and prices in local market. Agriculture Department eyes releasing next week a suggested retail price or SRP on several agricultural products. And around 1.3 million students set to avail free tuition at public colleges and universities this school year. Y News begins now.
From the UNTV News and Rescue Command Center in Quezon City, this is Y News.
Good evening. The government is set to import sugar amid increasing demand and prices in the local market. Here's why from Monokson.
The government has approved the importation of sugar following reports of price increases in the market due to lower sugar production in the country. The Agriculture Department explains this is to address the higher demand and control the rising prices in local markets. Sugar Regulatory Administration reports during a board meeting on June 11 that the country's sugar production will fall short of up to 200,000 metric tons this year. This is because some beverage companies opt to buy locally produced sugar due to hefty excise tax on imported high fructose sugar. Such shortfall in supply has caused a surge in sugar prices by up to 10 pesos per kilogram, as observed by the Department of Trade and Industry. This prompted the manufacturers of pastries, bread, and sweetened beverages to also consider increasing prices of their products.
Karamihan ayaw itaas kasi ayaw nila mawala. Ayaw namin mawala yung customer. Ayaw namin mahirapan din ang customer. Pwede kami magsakripisyo konti, magtiis konti.
However, the DTI says there is no need to raise bread prices yet, as the value of flour and other raw materials remain stable.
They have to justify if they want to increase the price.
A local consumer group, meanwhile, fears more price hikes following the more than 3 peso increase in the price of liquefied petroleum gas this month. Mon Hokson, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
A senator seeks to lower the value-added tax to 10%, while another lawmaker believes there is no need to change the current tax system of the country. Nel Maribuhok explains why.
A lawmaker is pushing to lower the taxes that the government imposes on goods and services, also known as the value-added tax. Senator Riza Hontiveros' proposal seeks to lower VAT from the current 12% to 10% or down to 8%.
At kapag umabot na sa 4.5% share sa GDP, yung koleksyon natin sa VAT ay lalo pang ibaba ito sa 8% para naman din maging consistent sa current VAT rate sa ASEAN region.
Hontiveros believes it is high time to pass the bill that she says would balance the impact to the economy of the rising inflation rate. Last May, the country's inflation rose to 4.6%. Critics blame the implementation of the tax reform law for the surging prices of goods. The Department of Finance or DOF previously said it is open to lowering the VAT rate, but that there is a need to remove first the exemptions under the E. While for Senator Juan Miguel Zubiri, the government should think of ways to ease the burden of sectors affected by the high inflation instead of changing the entire tax system.
Strong suggestion to government. Let us go back to looking at renewable sources of energy and e-vehicles. Kasi ang umaalma ang mga transport companies, ang umaalma ang mga pasahero at mga may-ari ng sasakyan.
Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue, Senate of the Philippines.
Consumers will soon have a guide on the retail prices of several agricultural products sold in the market. Ray Pelayo tells us why.
The Department of Agriculture is set to release next week the suggested retail prices of some agricultural products. Secretary Manny Piñol says the SRP is mainly for rice, fishes like milkfish, tilapia and galunggong, and vegetables like petsay and eggplant. He adds consumers may use this to know the range of product prices and to report sellers who are taking unfair advantage. The official notes regular milled rice, should not go beyond 40 pesos per kilogram, while well-milled rice should only be priced at around 40 to 42 pesos per kilogram.
The producers actually will not be affected by the SRP. It will be in the market where the SRP will be implemented.
Those found guilty of profiteering may face imprisonment and be fined with up to 1 million pesos. Meanwhile, Piñol also reports that around 500,000 metric tons or 1 million sacks of rice are set to be delivered in the country starting this month.
10,000 metric tons nasa Subic na, nagbababa pa lang sila kasi masamang panahon. And then as of Monday, 5,000 metric tons sa Surigao. All the other vessels are already within the Philippine territorial waters.
The official expects lower rice prices once NFA imported rice stocks reach the market. Ray Pilayo, UNTV, News and Rescue, Quezon City.
As the implementation of the Ease of Doing Business law draws near, many are expected to start their own business. In line with this, an expert believes starters should consider their interests or inclinations first or before starting a business. Let's find out why from Monokson.
Within 3 days, all business permits will be approved. This is once the implementation of the Ease of Doing Business law finally takes effect. But starting a business without proper preparation could prove difficult. Business expert Rosel Ray shares some tips for doing business in the country. First is to determine what business to start. Ray explains it is imperative to take into consideration one's interest than what's in demand.
Kasi kahit i-offer mo sa kanila yung gusto ng market, kung hindi naman yun ang gusto mo, ang hirap magtrabaho ng something na hindi mo passion.
If one has many interests, list it down and assess which one weighs more. This involves the liking of any kind of product or any skill such as drawing or dancing.
Mag-single out ka ng 3. And from the 3, again, sulat mo pros and cons, ano yung mga pwede sa negosyo, sino yung mga iniidolo mo sa industry na naging successful na sa negosyong yon, and it will somehow lead you there, doon sa pag-identify ng iyong passion.
Ray believes it is better to start your business with a small capital.
Ang ilalabas mo lang sa negosyo ay yung kaya mong ipatalo, yung kaya mong mawala. Huwag kang magsasanla ng bahay o ng kotse o magbebenta ng isang bagay na alam mong baka ikalugi later on.
But Rosel says it's also better not to loan for capital and that this should only be done when one's business is successful.
Pag nangutang ka sa kaibigan mo, nangutang ka sa kamag-anak mo, isa mo pa siyang iintindihin para pakitain at magbayad. So baka hindi ka makatulog sa gabi. Imbis na nakafocus ka sa business, nakafocus ka sa naniningil sa'yo ng utang.
She also reminds starters of the possibility of failure in their business, like her who flunked 13 times before succeeding. Business experts say it's also important to ask questions that would help starters succeed in business. Mon Hokson, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Over 1 million students no longer have to pay tuition and miscellaneous fees in public colleges and universities beginning this school year. This after the Commission on Higher Education signs a memorandum of agreement with almost 200 local and state universities and colleges for the implementation of the Republic Act No. 10931 or the Free Higher Education Law. The law allows around 1.3 million students to pursue tertiary education for free, while 300,000 of them who are beneficiaries of the Pantawid Pamilyang Pilipino program will get additional subsidy from the government. 14 small-scale mining plants in Agusan del Sur are set to be closed this month. Vincent Arboleda explains why.
The Department of Environment and Natural Resources, Mines and Geosciences Bureau has ordered the closure of 14 illegal small-scale mining plants in Agusan del Sur. This is in line with the directive of President Rodrigo Duterte and with the observance of Environment Month. Among the violations of the said mining plants were lack of permit and inaccurate excavation that could lead to landslides. According to Gerzon Gallego, spokesperson of DNR Caraga, The provincial government of Agusan del Sur already issued a cease and desist order to 84 small-scale mining operations in the province. However, only 14 were ordered closed so far.
Sinabihan sila na kung hindi nyo ititigil siya sa ano namin yan, talagang may gagawing drastic action ang DNR dahil may order.
Meanwhile, the municipal governments are working on providing alternative livelihood source to miners and residents affected by the closure order. Vincent Arboleda, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Some residents of a subdivision in Marilao, Bulacan abandoned their homes while Malabon City closely monitors barangays near Tulyahan River this rainy season. Grace Casin tells us why.
Malabon City is one of the flood-prone areas in Metro Manila. Now that rainy season begins, the local government is closely monitoring barangays near Tulyahan River, which easily gets flooded. The LGU also sets up command centers that monitor frequently flooded areas. Public Information Office Head Bong Padua says they're using 70 pumping stations and opened the floodgates to prevent flooding.
Pag tag-ulan na, naka-alert lagi yung counterpart namin sa barangay. Meron kasi kami dito yung disaster management center. Tinaas na ni Mayor ng almost 2 meters yung mga dikes namin.
Padua adds that classes in the city are automatically suspended during heavy rains even if there is no tropical cyclone signal. Meanwhile, some residents of Constantino subdivision in Barangay Poblacion, Marilao, Bulacan could no longer put up with frequent flooding. During high tide or rainfall, their homes easily get inundated, which damages their households and appliances.
Konting ulan, baha, high tide, baha, yung iba umaalis dahil mayayaman sila, binibenta nila yung kahit mura. Kami, ito lang ang akin. Kaya kahit baha, nagtitiis kami.
Others left their homes and hired caretakers to look after their homes, while some decided to just stay.
Sa kuryente, delikado talaga, nakaka-grounded.
Ano ginagawa niyo po?
O, di papatay namin switch.
Grace Casin, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
President Rodrigo Duterte seeks to allow barangay chairmen to carry guns. Here's why from Grace Casin.
During the oath-taking of newly elected barangay chairmen, President Rodrigo Duterte announced he wants to allow barangay chairmen to carry guns. This, the chief executive says, is still in line with his campaign against illegal drugs and criminality.
I might consider arming you if I think in my assessment and evaluation at tatanungin ko yung police pati yung intelligence community, if you are really into it, the crime, I will support you. And I may grant you possession and to carry your firearms.
And just like his promise to policemen and soldiers, the president says he will protect them from charges as long as they're doing their duties.
Pag performance of duty, I will never relish the sight of a law enforcement agency or a barangay captain going to jail kasi iniwanan kayo. Mag-i-intervene ako. Hindi yan corruption.
The National Police meanwhile support the proposal of the President.
We support on the stand of the President to arm the barangay officials. No? But I think it will be the DILG will be deciding on that also.
President Duterte calls on barangay chairmen to set aside their personal interest and serve the country well.
We owe it to the Filipino people to serve with humility and lead with integrity. Our fight against criminality, corruption, and illegal drugs continues.
Grace Casin, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
The Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board costs several jeepney drivers in Pasig City earlier, while the Interagency Council for Traffic impounds a number of vehicles. Joanano tells us why.
The Interagency Council for Traffic or IAC conducted a surprise inspection earlier in front of the Rizal High School in Pasig City. This is to determine if public utility drivers are properly implementing the 20% fare discount for students. Many of the drivers are giving student discounts. However, IAC found that some are using old fare matrix while others are not posting theirs on their PUVs. LTFRB Chairman Martin Dalgra himself was the one who caught the jeepney drivers.
Wala kang fare matrix dyan. Violation yan. Ano? Ano mo na lang. Ano mo na lang po. I need that for now. Para maano lang, ha? Oh, meron pala dyan eh. Bakit hindi nyo pinapakita? Baka kung hindi mo ilalagay dyan, matikitan ka. Oh, meron pala eh.
Under LTFRB's rule, a copy of the fare matrix should be posted inside a bus or jeep. Violators will be fined with 500 to 2,000 pesos. Meanwhile, IAC also impounds a UV Express van and motorcycle during its anti-colorum operations. The van driver could not show certificate of public convenience, while the tricycle driver has no license. IAC also accosted a UV Express driver since his vehicle has no body markings.
Kapipintura lang po last week, bali natapos po, bali 3 days na po. Ibabaping po, so hindi po pwedeng ibaping dahil umuulan po.
More than 2,000 colorum PUVs were apprehended by IAC since July 2016 to April this year based on the records from the Transportation Department. Joanano, UNTV News and Rescue, Pasig City.
Malacanang congratulates U.S. President Donald Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un for successfully holding their first summit in Singapore. In a statement, presidential spokesperson Secretary Harry Roque said, "This development underscores in the strongest terms the value of diplomacy and peaceful dialogue, which augurs well for the peace, security, and stability in the region and the world. And though this event has been written in history, Roque notes this is just the beginning of the real hard work and assures that the Philippines is ready to lend support towards realization."
Its withdrawal of the Philippines' membership in the International Criminal Court is facing another challenge at the Supreme Court. The Philippine Coalition for the ICC filed a petition urging the SC to declare as void the Philippine notice of withdrawal from the ICC due to lack of parliamentary approval from the Senate. The group believes President Rodrigo Duterte's decision was not based in fact and law after the International Tribunal opened a preliminary examination into his administration's alleged crimes against humanity.
Ngayon, ang ginawa po ng ating Pangulo ay sa kanyang sarili siya lamang po ang nagdesisyon. Sa makatwid, hindi po nakonsulta ang Senado. At sinasabi natin na kailangan pong sundin ang saligang batas patungkol po sa proseso ng withdrawal mula po sa isang tratadong kagaya po ng Rome Statute.
The SC has said on July 24 the oral arguments on the two petitions filed against the Philippines' withdrawal from the ICC. A total of 24 chiefs of police in the Mimaropa region were relieved on June 11 following poor performance or low in accomplishment. Mimaropa Director Police Chief Superintendent Emmanuel Licop confirms he immediately approved the Oversight Committee's recommendation after it monitored the underperformance of said police officers. Licop also warns the remaining 53 chiefs of police in Mimaropa to work double time, especially in line with the government's anti-illegal drugs campaign, to remain on active duty. Today is the last day for filing the Statement of Contributions and Expenditures or SOCE of all candidates in May 14 Barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan polls. The Commission on Elections will no longer provide an extension of the filing, and elected officials who fail to submit will be disqualified. The submission of SOCE is in accordance with Section 14 of Republic Act 7166 or the Synchronized National and Local Elections, which requires all winning and losing candidates to file their respective SOCE 30 days after the election day. Asher Kadapan Jr., UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Up next on Y News. Australia keeps China out of internet cabling for Pacific neighbor. Macedonian Prime Minister Zoran Zaev confirms final deal with Greece after long negotiations over name dispute. And Mexican scientists discover new dinosaur species said to be the oldest to have lived in the northern desert region. And those are the reasons behind the stories in the second part of our newscast. Y News returns with William Thio. I'm Angelo Castro III.
Significant news for the day. Y News continues. Here are the top stories. The government is set to import 200,000 metric tons of sugar following reports of price increases in the market due to lower sugar production in the country. Sugar Regulatory Administration reported earlier that supplies fell because some beverage companies opted to buy locally produced sugar due to hefty excise tax on imported high fructose sugar. Such shortfall in supply has caused a surge in prices by up to 10 pesos per kilogram, prompting some manufacturers to also adjust their prices. The DTI, however, says there is no need to raise bread prices yet, as the value of flour and other raw materials remains stable. The government expects a decline in prices once imported sugar reaches the local market.
Karamihan ayaw itaas kasi ayaw nila mawala. Ayaw namin mawala yung customer. Ayaw namin mahirapan din ang customer. Pwede kami magsakripisyo konti.
They have to justify if they want to increase the price.
The Department of Agriculture, or DA, is set to release next week the suggested retail prices of some agricultural products. Agriculture Secretary Manny Piñol says the SRP is mainly for rice, fish like milkfish, tilapia, and galunggong, and vegetables like pechay and eggplant. The adds consumers may use this to know the range of product retail prices and to report sellers who are taking unfair advantage. Those found guilty of profiteering may face imprisonment and be fined with up to 1 million pesos.
The producers actually will not be affected by the SRP. It will be in the market where the SRP will be implemented.
Over 1 million students no longer have to pay tuition and miscellaneous fees in public colleges and universities beginning this school year. This after the Commission on Higher Education signs a memorandum of agreement with almost 200 local and state universities and colleges for the implementation of Republic Act 10931, or the Free Higher Education Law. The law allows around 1.3 million students to pursue tertiary education for free, while 300,000 of them who are beneficiaries of the Pantawid Pamilyang Pilipino program will get additional subsidy from the government. President Rodrigo Duterte seeks to allow barangay chairmen to carry guns in line with his campaign against illegal drugs and criminality. He made the statement during the oath-taking of newly elected barangay chairmen in Pampanga yesterday. And just like his promise to policemen and soldiers, the president says he will protect them from charges as long as they are doing their duties. Duterte also calls on barangay chairmen to set aside their personal interest and serve the country well.
I might consider arming you if I think in my assessment and evaluation at tatanungin ko yung police pati yung intelligence community, if you are really into it, the crime, I will support you. And I may grant you possession and to carry your firearms. Pag performance of duty, I will never relish the sight of a law enforcement agency or a barangay captain going to jail kasi iniwanan kayo. Mag-i-intervene ako. Hindi yan corruption.
And for the news abroad, here's Noel Poliarco from Toronto, Canada. Good evening, Noel.
Good evening, William. Australia agrees to fund underwater internet cables and a cybersecurity center for the Solomon Islands during a visit to Canberra by Solomon's Prime Minister Rick Winnipella. The arrangement will forestall plans by Chinese telecom giant Huawei Technologies that could have compromised Australian internet security. In April, Australia effectively scuppered the Huawei plan with a promise to join the Solomon Islands and neighboring Papua New Guinea via an undersea cable to Sydney, setting aside roughly $200 million in its May budget for the task. Huawei has faced scrutiny from security authorities around the world, and especially in the United States, where it was the subject of a 2012 investigation over whether its equipment provides an opportunity for foreign espionage, something the company has consistently denied. Australian Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull announced on Wednesday he will offer a national apology to victims of institutional child sexual abuse and their families on October 22. The move stemmed from a 5-year inquiry into child sexual abuse involving more than 8,000 cases of sexual misconduct, largely committed at the religious and state-run institutions. Turnbull said on Wednesday the government would adopt 104 of the 122 recommendations posed by the inquiry called a Royal Commission, which include a national redress scheme that provides financial and legal services to victims. Ecuador's Attorney General Raul Perez said on Tuesday he will investigate former President Rafael Correa for the alleged kidnapping of an opposition politician during his administration. Former legislator Fernando Balda told the Attorney General's office he had been the victim of a kidnapping in 2012 ordered by high authorities of the Correa government in Bogota, where he was living to evade a sentence issued by Ecuador against him for slander of Correa. Correa has denied the accusations of political persecutions. He is also facing other investigations by the Attorney General's office for actions during his tenure of office. The International Court reverses the war crimes convictions of a former Vice President of the Democratic Republic of Congo, and Macedonia and Greece have reached a deal over a name dispute. Darlene Basingan tells us why.
In Congo, the International Criminal Court on Friday overturned the war crimes conviction of former Democratic Republic of Congo Vice President Jean-Pierre Bemba, a huge blow to prosecutors that could also impact politics in his home country. Judge Christine Van den Winkert said Bemba, once a leader of Congo's main opposition party, could not be held criminally liable for crimes carried out by troops under his control in years 2002 to 2003. Dismissing his 18-year sentence, she said trial judges had failed to consider his efforts to stop crimes committed by his movement for the liberation of Congo once he became aware of them, and how difficult it would have been for him to control the troops' action from a distance. ICC prosecutor Fatou Bensouda called the decision regrettable and troubling. Bemba was one of the only 4 people convicted by the Permanent War Crimes Court in its 16 years of operation and the highest ranking among them. In Macedonia, Macedonian Prime Minister Zoran Zaev confirmed that his country and Greece have reached a final deal after a long process of negotiations to solve the name dispute. Under the agreement, Zaev said the name of his country to be used both internationally and bilaterally would be the Republic of North Macedonia. He said the agreement needs to be further regulated in line with an amendment to the Constitution. Moreover, Zaev added that through the deal, the Macedonian language would be recognized in the United Nations and its people would be known as Macedonian citizens of the Republic of North Macedonia. On May 30, Zaev declared that Macedonia would hold a referendum on the name deal with Greece when both countries reach an agreement. In the United Kingdom, Prime Minister Theresa May won a vote in Parliament on Tuesday, winning over potential pro-European rebels in her party with a compromise plan to give Parliament a meaningful vote later this year on the terms of Britain's exit from the European Union. After a closely watched debate, lawmakers voted 324 to 298 to accept a proposal saying that if Parliament rejects the final Brexit deal, a government minister will set out how the government plans to proceed within 28 days. That, combined with a promise to listen to a leading pro-European lawmaker and potentially add further safeguards, giving Parliament more influence, was enough to see off a rebellion that had threatened to undermine May's authority.
And those are the news from other parts of the globe. Back to you, Will.
Thank you very much, Noel Poliarco, live from Toronto, Canada. The remains of a marine animal belonging to a new genus of dinosaur have been discovered in Mexico, which is said to be the oldest to have lived in the northern desert region. Let's find out why from Leslie Longbowen.
Paleontologists at Mexico's acclaimed Desert Museum have discovered the remains of a new species of dinosaur that inhabited the coast of northwest Coahuila State 85 million years ago, making it the oldest dinosaur to have inhabited the region. The Acantholipan gonzalezi was found in the Ocampo region of Coahuila and is native to the country's northern desert region. After more than 8 years of research, studies of the fossil evidence reveal that it is a new genus of Nodosaurium. Due to its characteristics, it was a juvenile measuring 11.4 feet in length and weighed more than half a ton.
If you see, there didn't used to be a land in Coahuila. That is why we had not found any dinosaur from this period or before then. It's a marine animal. The obvious question is how a terrestrial dinosaur was found on land that used to be seabed.
The name Acantholipan gonzalezi comes from the Greek akanthos, which means spine, and lipan in honor of the brave Apache tribe that inhabited the region where the specimen was found. Acantholipan differs from its coolest relatives such as Nodosaurus and Neobrachiosaurus since the ulna, or one of the bones of their forearms, has a much larger projection than in other Nodosaurus, in addition to having conical spines in the pelvic region. Other unique dinosaur fossils have been found in Mexico, including flying reptile Pterosaur and the Albertosaurus. Paleontologists believe there are still many more local dinosaurs yet to be uncovered in Coahuila. A replica of the Acantholipan gonzalezi will be shown at Coahuila's Desert Museum, which features Latin America's most important collection of dinosaur remains. Amongst them is the Tyrannosaurus rex. Leslie Longboan, UNTV News and Rescue.
And those are the reasons behind the news, June 13, 2018. In behalf of Darlene, Basingan, and Angelo, Castro III, I am William Thio. Because we need to know, we will always ask why.